Welcome back to another episode of Beyond Rockets. In this episode, I sit down and talk with Maddie's Cookie Company, a local cookie company. Its goal is to spread joy one cookie at a time. First off, thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk with me. Would you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yes, I'm Maddie Cimino. I'm 19 years old, and I'm a freshman at Auburn. I am the owner of Maddie's Cookie Company, which I started at the end of my senior year.
Are you originally from Huntsville, or did family and work kind of bring y'all here?
I'm from Huntsville. I've grown up here my whole life.
So with starting this kind of cookie company in town, what were you doing prior to the cookie company? Did you always enjoy baking, or was that kind of something you kind of fell upon pretty quickly and kind of grew this into what it is today?
It's definitely something that I fell upon pretty quickly and unexpectedly, but before that I was just a normal high schooler. I've swam my whole life growing up. So I was swimming. I had some pool jobs in the summer, lifeguarding and managing. I worked at an accounting firm at one point. I babysat all the time, so really nothing to do with baking prior to this.
So back in January of 2020, when you kind of first started the Maddie's Cookies, was success kind of huge at the very beginning, or did it kind of start slow?
It definitely started slow. So I didn't start out as Maddie's Cookie Company. I started an Instagram blog. It was the end of December, so we had this big dessert party at my house. It was just girls, and I baked for like a week for it. And there was food, just desserts spread out all over my dining room table. And I was like, take pictures of me. I'm going to start an Instagram blog. So I started munching with Maddie, and I probably had like 100 followers the first day, just like people that I know in Huntsville. And so for like 2 weeks, I just posted recipes and cute pictures of stuff that I would bake. And then it was January 1st, and I told my mom, I was like, I'm going to try selling my cookies on Instagram. And she was just like, okay, whatever. And so then that day I got like 5 orders, and I was like, okay, like I need to go home and get baking.
Like, this is a big deal. Like 5 orders are like the biggest thing you've seen. You're like, yes, like people are enjoying it. I'm ready for this.
Yes. So I had always made these chocolate chip cookies that I would always take with me like to work. And I forgot to mention I'd worked at a physical therapy office the beginning of my senior year. And so I would always take them there and just give them to my friends on Fridays for a little happy. And my siblings loved them. They were always kind of our favorite thing when they came home from school. So those chocolate chip cookies are kind of how I started. So I sold those the first day, and then I also sold my monster cookies, which I still sell today. And so I had 5 orders that first day, and it just kind of kept going. And then by Valentine's Day, it was really big. I remember the week of Valentine's Day, I sold like 600 cookies that week, and I thought it was just the most amazing thing ever. So that was a pretty quick growth for Valentine's Day, just being about a month and a half from the start. And then in March, at the beginning of quarantine, pretty much the middle of March, I had 500 followers on my Instagram blog. This is when I was still munching with Maddie, and I posted a giveaway. And I think it was for like 6 3-packs maybe. I don't remember what it was. So multiple people won, but I thought I would get 100 followers from that, just from more people seeing my page. But then the next morning I woke up and I had 1,000 followers.
Wow.
So my orders just completely quadrupled, and I was way in over my head. And at this point I was still in school, so it was a lot balancing, and it all started out of my house. So I started out as a cottage business. So legally I was able to bake out of my house. And the beginning of March, I didn't have an LLC yet, but towards the end of March, beginning of April is when I was like, okay, I need to make this legal. Like, this is a real business. So then I switched to Maddie's Cookie Company at the beginning of April. And that's when I was still doing porch pickup. So it's like my address was all over Instagram everywhere, and people would just Venmo me, and they would order cookies the day before or the day of. It just depended, and they would come pick up off my front porch. And then Easter, I did a big sale from my porch. There was like a line down the street. I sold like 800 cookies that day. It was just crazy. And after that, I was like, I really want to have a store, but I was like, I'm a senior in high school.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing? And someone told me about Clinton Row. And so I came and looked at it, and I found a unit, and I was like, why would I not do it? Like, the lease is month to month. It's cheap. And so that's when I was Maddie's Cookie Company. I had an LLC, and I was like, why not? Like, I'll just do it for the summer before I leave for
just
school.
Just like see if it works, and if it works, you're going to continue going. But like, you didn't expect it to be like something that was going to like blow up even more.
Yeah. So like pretty much every day this summer I would sell out every single day, and I'm only open from 11 to 1. So I would have the pre-orders, and I would sell out, and then it was just like I couldn't keep up with it. I was like, some days I would get up at 4 in the morning and bake until 10 before I would come to the store. And so I got new equipment this summer, And it really has changed pretty much the whole business because I've been able to bake so much more. And I found commercial kitchen space. I'm no longer a cottage business. And it's just crazy to see what's happened really in the last 6 months, honestly.
So when you first started this and you just kind of started baking cookies, you started showing it to your friends, you're kind of trying to go the business yourself. You're a senior in high school, and like most seniors in high school aren't, starting their own business and aren't being, or at least being successful doing it. I mean, if anything, a college senior might be, doing yard work for some neighbors or like little things during the summer, but they're not starting their own business and signing an LLC. Did you ever feel like you were in over your head, and like how did you approach things you didn't know how to do?
Yes, I was definitely way in over my head. I wouldn't say that I necessarily got intimidated too much as to doing part of the business side of it. My mom was able to help me a lot on the business side, and she still does. She's more of like my business partner now, so it's been nice to have her and kind of some credibility when I do go to a meeting and it's like, okay, like I know I was still 18 at the time, and so I would have my mom with me and she would normally know the people that I was meeting with. So she was able to set me up with like the attorneys and the accountants and just the people that have really gotten me to where I am today. So I definitely had no idea where to go from where I was, but I've just had so many people that have poured so much wisdom into me and helped me figure out what I do next, and it really made me realize like how much I can really do with this if I want to. So
did you always have an entrepreneurial mindset? Did you always think growing up that you were going to own your own business one day and that's what you were going to do? Or is that something that in December you were like, I'm going to own my own business? Or did that not even come until like February, March?
It didn't come until probably March, April, because even in December, like my whole life, I've thought that I knew I would go to Auburn. It was the only place I applied, and I just knew that's where I was going. And I always thought I would go into the medical field and be a doctor or a PA or something like that. And so even up until this summer, that was still kind of the plan. So I definitely did not have a business mindset whatsoever. But once it started picking up, and especially once the store was a thing, I was like, okay, I really enjoy business, and obviously something's working well. Like the cookies sell themselves and I know that they're amazing. But the business side of it, I really have enjoyed. So it's definitely something that I'm excited to learn more about because I feel like I just don't know enough at all.
So you make the cookie company is growing. You're a senior in high school and you're kind of growing this out, and you decide to go to Auburn. You're going to go to Auburn. How's the transition been for you to kind of still run this business, even though you're in Auburn most of the time, and you are 4 or 5 hours away from Huntsville, where the Maddie's Cookie Company is? How tough has that been?
It's been a lot harder than I expected it to be. So I really went back and forth this summer. I had no idea what I was going to do with the business when I left for school because I was leaving at the very beginning of August, and it was just approaching so quick. I didn't have any employees. My mom would help me sometimes, and a few friends would help me make dough during the weeks, but it's like I didn't have anyone to take it over. So it's like it was really up to me. So I just decided I was going to keep paying my rent. I was going to try and come home once a month while I was at Auburn and do a big weekend sale. And that's what I did. But even the first few weeks of college, I don't know if it was just because college isn't normally what it is because of COVID, or just that I've experienced part of the real world before I went to college. So it's kind of a hard balance. But the first few weeks, especially after Rush, so I did do a sorority and all of that, but it's like people say college is the best 4 years of your life, and I think it's going to be, but it's definitely hard freshman year. And it was just hard being like, okay, like I have all of this at home, but I'm here and there's nothing that I can do about it. And I really went back and forth, but there wasn't much that I could change. So I was like, I'm just going to do the plan that I've committed to. So I did come home once a month, and it worked really well. Everyone was always so excited when I came home, and it was the best option that I had. So it's been really a big blessing that I did have online classes and I was able to come home so often. And especially for this long break of the holidays, I'm home for a month and a half. So I'm able to open back up and kind of plan for next semester and try and see if I can have someone keep it open longer than just the weekends that I'm in town.
So were you doing any baking in Auburn, or was all your baking still happening in Huntsville? So you were having to drive home and then bake and then come sell, or did you already have stuff baked before then?
No, it was a full weekend when I came home. I would normally come home on a Thursday because I didn't have classes, and I would go to the kitchen either Thursday night or Friday mornings and bake as much dough as I possibly could and then sell Friday and Saturday. And then on Sundays, I would bake in the morning in Huntsville and then drive it back to Auburn to sell there. So I did 2 sales in Auburn, but everything still was getting baked in Huntsville, and then I would just transport it. But the second sale that I did in Auburn, I got to do at a coffee shop, which I was super excited about. So that was super fun, and it's been fun to see all my friends see what I do, and they get to try the cookies. But yeah, when I would come home, it was exhausting, but it was so much fun.
So is it like a weird experience? Because I know, like, personally, like, you're probably the closest person in age that I've had on the podcast to me. I'm 21 and you're 19, and it's weird when people ask me what I do. And like, now that I do this full time, I get to say, like, oh, I have my own business, and I do marketing, and I do a podcast, and then they look at you kind of like, you're definitely too young to, like, do people still look at you and, like, do you enjoy telling people what you do? Like,
yes,
I make cookies, like, that's what I do.
It's been fun because in Huntsville, it's like people will recognize me and be like, oh my gosh, it's the cookie girl, or people have heard about it but they haven't realized that it's me. And so it's fun to have that experience in Huntsville, but in Auburn it's totally different because no one knows who I am. And so it's like explaining to them, yes, I'm in college, but I also have a business at home. And it's almost a weird line of explaining to them as it being like this weird kind of side hobby that I have versus like a full-blown business. And I'm like, I don't try to hype it up too much, but I'm like, it's like legit. Like, it's like,
I have the paperwork to show it.
Yes.
Like, it's not just like I just started doing this for Etsy or something. It was like, I'm actually like, I have a place, I sell this, like, I run, like, I'm my own boss.
Yes.
And I guess a lot of people probably look at you like, oh, it's Maddie's Cookies, but there's probably somebody else that does she's just like the face of it. But you're like, I actually do everything.
Every little bit. I've gotten a lot more help as I've gone on. So it's been nice because my mom and I have gotten to do this together. It was definitely hard at first, but we've started to work really well together, and I think it's really going to help us in the long run. So she's been able to help me this break and all the times that I came home. And my sister is also home, so she's working for me over the break, and I've got a few other girls that are helping me while I'm home. So it's hard for me to delegate, but I definitely needed to do it. It's the only way that this thing's going to keep running. So I'm excited to finally feel like I've got more help and can trust people. And it's scary to be like, here's the recipe, make these cookies the exact same way that I do it, because it's going to be hard. But I know it can work. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, and like what's crazy is this, like, you're 19, you have this business, and you're like hiring people.
Yeah.
Like, you're having to say, like, yes, you can help me and you can be a part of this, or like, hey, like, I don't think it's going to work out. Like, have you had to make those? It's been an interesting balance with my mom. I haven't had to make any of those decisions yet. I'm hoping that that's coming soon. But with my mom, it has been an interesting balance. But we're figuring it out. So it's like, she's your mom, but also, like, she's kind of like, you're kind of her boss at the same, because it's your company.
Yes,
so
it is.
That's like, I couldn't imagine being in that circumstance and trying to figure out, okay, like, this is what needs to be done. Like, no matter, like, yes, you're my mom, but this has to be done. Like, it needs to be this way. So, like, luckily you said you haven't made those decisions yet, and like, you hopefully not put yourself in those predicaments right now. So you start this company in the middle of COVID. Was the goal of starting this company was to kind of bring light and just like shed joy for people? Because I mean, it was such a kind of a rough couple of months, especially for everybody, and it still kind of is. Was that the whole fuel and the fire for the actual company, the cookie company itself, or was there?
Yes, for sure. So the first day, January 1st, when I posted that I was selling cookies, I posted a Bible verse with it too, and it was just like, see, I'm doing a new thing in you, which has just been really crazy to look back and see, like, how much of a hand God has had in all of this, and just like seeing the effects that each cookie can have in someone's life. Because it's like, yes, people are coming in, they're eating something fun, but it's like, you can't eat a cookie and not get excited. And like, it really does bring joy to people. And I think my attitude about it is really what makes the difference, which I've had my bad days, don't get me wrong. It's been really hard and stressful, but it, like, looking at it in hindsight, it's like, yes, it is a cookie, but it still can make a difference, because no matter what, you're going to get happy when you see a cookie. So that's definitely really what started it, especially with COVID. And I think that's why so many people ordered in March and April, just because it's like they were at home, like, why not?
Yeah.
And it was fun to come pick them up off my front porch, especially people if they lived close, and a lot of people would walk or ride bikes. And so it was just a really fun experience to see, like, how each person was, like, gifting cookies or why they were buying them. And it still is.
So you started this in the time where like really people weren't really starting businesses. Like they weren't trying to say, let me get into something I haven't done before, and this is like a great time to do it.
Yeah.
COVID's a great time to start new things. But you kind of build this out, and you get to the point during the summer where you're really working and long days and long nights. You said this last semester at school was a tough semester, kind of going back and forth with baking and stuff like that. How is the things you've learned this past semester going to kind of look for the future of what Maddie's Cookies is going to be next semester? Because you're still going to be in school, aren't you? I mean, you're still going to be trying to go to Auburn. You're still going to be learning and stuff like that. But you're still going to try to be running this business. Like, is there a different plan you have for the next semester?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm hoping that hopefully maybe by the middle of next semester, maybe by summer, I've got a lot more people helping me and kind of keeping it going without me being here, which I still probably will come home at least once a month and just kind of keep up with everything. But I think the good thing about last semester, me coming home and having such big weekends, it kind of pushed me to my limits. And like, I realized I can make 1,000 cookies in one day. Yes, it's exhausting. And yes, I probably shouldn't do it all on my own, but it's like that can be done and they're going to sell. So I think it's been interesting for me to see like how badly people really do want the cookies. And then to also think of like, all the markets that I haven't even gotten close to touching yet. Because honestly, a lot of my customers are downtown Huntsville and Blossomwood, Jones Valley area. Like, I haven't reached Madison whatsoever, or just a few other zip codes. So it's just crazy to think like the potential that it can have. And then also like listening to some of the stories of how like Gigi's Cupcakes and Chicken Salad Chick and like just other businesses like that, how they started, and seeing how similar it is to me. And just thinking like, holy cow, like something can happen with this if I want it to.
And I think that's kind of the crazy thing is like you see these bigger companies that like everyone knows about now and like their stories, and you're like, I can do that for myself. It's just kind of seeing how far you can kind of get that limit, saying, okay, I can do this myself. Well, at this point, I'm going to have to hire one or two people to kind of get it to the next 1,000 and the next 1,000 and the next 1,000.
Yeah.
Is during the part. Don't remember what I was going to ask, but oh goodness. So when you started this, the whole goodness gracious, I like had a really good question, and I don't remember. Once you started, so at the beginning of January, once you started like really kind of getting into the baking, did you start selling your stuff automatically, or was a lot of it still, you said, just for your friends and stuff like that and your family? Or did it kind of like, did you already like, I'm going to go ahead and start selling these or try to sell these?
So when I posted on Munching with Maddie back in January that I was selling, it was just to anyone. And of course, like at the beginning, it was people that I knew. But like even towards the end of January, beginning of February, like doing orders for names that I had never heard of, it was kind of cool. It was like, I don't even know who this person is, but they're ordering cookies from me. So it definitely started out for my friends before I was selling them, just kind of gifting them to people. But pretty soon after I started selling, it was a lot of people that I didn't even know, or maybe people that I had heard of. The fun part recently has been doing a lot of corporate stuff for businesses and kind of like big names that it's like everyone around town knows, and it's like they're ordering cookies. Like it's just
like
cool.
from me kind of thing. Like that's like, so like that's what I was kind of going with too, is that you've kind of transitioned to not only selling cookies for people that are just like wanting them for like their like for a friend or for a family or for themselves. You already started doing for them for corporate stuff. How has that kind of gone, and how have you learned how to do that? I mean, like I feel like reaching out to a company, do you reach out to companies themselves, or has companies just started reaching out to you?
I've never directly reached out to anyone. So to this day, I still only have an Instagram and I have a Facebook. I don't keep up with the Facebook. I just link everything from Instagram to Facebook. But the marketing side of it really has only been social media. So it's like if people are ordering, it's because they either follow the social media or they've heard about it from someone else or had cookies from a friend or something like that. So I haven't reached out to anyone, which has been really cool. So that's also like in the back of my head. It's like, if I really can pick up some marketing and start taking things to businesses and like just dropping off information, like it's just crazy to think how much more business I could get. So the Christmas orders, they're definitely picking up the more corporate stuff that people see that I'm doing. And I expect it to get busier up until Christmas. So that's been a really fun transition just to see like how people are gifting the cookies and what they're using them for. And I started doing the little cookie charcuterie boards for Christmas, which I ordered 100 boards, and I was like, I'll just do a few for Christmas. Probably not that many people will order them. And then I'll have leftovers to use throughout the rest of the year and figure it out. But it's like, it's been 1 week of Christmas and I've already used 50 boards. And it's like, when the 100 boards run out, they're out.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of trying to see if I can ration them up until like Christmas Eve, but we'll see. But the corporate stuff has been a pleasant surprise for sure.
You talked about how, oh my goodness. Such good questions to ask. I just don't. Okay. When you were looking at, so you mentioned as you were going through high school, and that you get to the end of high school and you're like, I'm going to go to college, or am I not going to go to college? And you're kind of talking to me about it a little bit off air earlier. Is the decision to go to college something that is like still like even though you're running a successful business, I mean, and from the outskirts, I mean, you're having plenty of orders and you'd have even more time if you weren't even going to school. Was it ever a tough decision to go to college, or was it always going to go? It's just a matter of what you were going to go for.
No, it was a very tough decision to go, which I would have never imagined that I would have had that predicament. And even my mom and I had some pretty serious conversations about that, which was kind of eye-opening to me, because it's like I don't know, it's just not what we do. It's like we go to college. And so especially with COVID and everything and all my classes being online, I mean, my mom and I were just like, is it really worth it for me to go, especially this year? Like, should I take a gap year? Should I just do Calhoun online this year? But I've always wanted to rush, and I knew that I wanted to find my friends and just kind of experience everything that freshman year is, even if it's different. So it was a really hard decision, but I'm glad that I did it. And because I knew if I had taken a gap year, like I would not have gone after that.
The cookie company would just blown up and you would have not gone to school. And
I wouldn't have been able to.
Did you ever feel like going to school was kind of like the idea of like it was a tough decision for you to pick to go to school? Did you ever feel like by going to school you were gonna like not be able to pour into the business as much as you wanted to, and that you were gonna miss opportunities because you were going to school?
Yes, that I cried about that a lot this summer. I was like, I'm going to miss so much in the business, and I'm scared that college is going to hold me back. But I was like, everyone tells me that I have the rest of my life to make cookies, which is true. But also I have so much momentum right now, and I didn't want that to slow down. But it's been great because when I do come home, it picks back up right where it left off, and I'm always cutting the orders off within an hour of even opening them up because I just can't keep up with it. So it's good to know that me going to college, it really didn't necessarily hold me back. Yes, it was a lot of business that I could have made this year, but it was a choice that I was willing to make.
So looking at like for people that are local or businesses that are local, how can they really connect with you and support you in what you're doing and even order cookies themselves?
Yeah, so the way to order cookies, I just have a Google Forms in my Instagram bio. It is nothing fancy. Sometimes it can be a little bit confusing, and I understand that. But that's the only way to order, just through my Instagram or Facebook in that link. But I love doing giveaways and stuff with businesses. It's always so fun, and it's like we help each other out on social media. And I just love getting to hear all the wisdom from other people in business. It's kind of hard with retail people, but especially the food world, I'm like, it's just crazy. There's always so much more to learn. And it's something that I never knew a single thing about. So it's been fun to connect with so many of the local businesses. And honestly, like before I guess owned a small business, I really didn't, like, to be honest, I didn't understand the value of small businesses. And now that's like really opened up my eyes and just see like how hard people really do work. And just how fun it can be too, but also like how important it is to support each and every one of them, and like for all of us small business owners to support each other.
Where do you see Maddie's Cookie Company going in the next couple of years?
I'm hoping in the next couple of years to definitely have shipping. I don't know if that's going to be nationwide or just a few states. I don't know. It's something that I'm definitely starting to look into and to consider. And I also am really wanting to do a lot more wholesale, so possibly in more grocery stores. I just started wholesaling at Walker's Market downtown, which has gone really well, and it's been a lot of fun. It's crazy, like, how many customers, Like, it's like those people I've never met, and they probably never would have been my customer if those cookies weren't in Walker's Market. So it's just like, it would be crazy to see how many other places I could get the cookies in. And I would also love to do some sort of coffee shop thing and have the cookies sold in there. And then long term, hopefully maybe they'll be on the grocery store aisles one day and be shipped completely nationwide and have multiple factories. That's definitely the long-term goal.
Yeah. Do you often think about the long-term goals, or do you really kind of keep yourself in the few months at a time kind of goals?
No, I'm bad about staying in the present. I definitely am always thinking about the future. And like, that was a big reason why I changed my major, because I knew if I made the decision now to make this as successful as it can be, I need to have that in my mind now. It started out as an accident, and I would like to have a little bit more control over the next steps of the business, which even when some things happen, I'm like, I had nothing to do with that. Like, it's just like crazy to see how much everything's grown. So I'm hoping to be intentional about the growth in the future.
What is something that you know now in the business that you wish you would have known when you first started this?
I wish I would have known that it would be what it is today. I might take that back. It kept the fun in it. Like, every day was something new. And I was just always meeting new people, making new connections, moving something further in the business. But I wish I would have known that, like, this is going to work, because I definitely doubted that for a while at the beginning. And like, I went through phases where I even doubted if the cookies were good and if people actually liked them or if they just bought them because it was me selling them. But it's been fun to gain more confidence in that and know, like, yes, like, my cookies are good. And they're going to keep selling. And it's just, I don't know. It's crazy to look back on it. I don't know what I wish I would have known when I started. There's so much.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with me. I love learning more about Maddie's Cookie Company, and I continue to look forward to the success it will have in the community in the years to come.
Yes, thank you. It was so fun.